Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you again. I know you were on the House Financial Services Committee, so you have some thoughts on the Fed, I would imagine. Hopefully you're still with us there. If you are, tell us what you think about this latest move by the Fed regarding commercial paper.
Well, thanks for having me this morning. It's another important step. The Fed's cutting rates to zero was, of course, a good insurance policy. But what we need is to make sure that we have money flowing through the economy. The commercial paper facility is a good idea. Also today, Treasury and the Fed released $10 billion from the Exchange Stabilization Fund. That will also be an important step for liquidity in the markets today. And the Fed's active by increasing its repurchase agreement commitment to $500 billion. That, too, frees up capital throughout the banking system.
Congressman, I'm curious. Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, has said that the government should be sending at least middle-income to low-income folk $1,000. Mitt Romney has said send $1,000. There are economists, we just heard from Nouriel Roubini, who said everyone in the country should get $1,000. Should Congress do this?
Well, I think we need to make sure that we put money in the pockets of families. We did the public health money with the $8 billion appropriation. The House passed and the Senate will pass this afternoon money that makes sure that there's funding for people who are quarantined, funding for people who have their kids out of school that they're taking care of. That was an important step. Now I think what's important is getting money directly to businesses impacted. A lot of concern in my district about people in the hospitality business, the restaurant business. I think we should make sure that the SBA doesn't just have more money, but that they can extend their guarantee up to $500,000.
Sir?
Yes.
If I work at a restaurant and I'm laid off, how does a Small Business Administration loan help me when the cities have ordered the restaurants to be shut?
Let me tell you.
But listen, because Nouriel Roubini is saying put money into the pocket of the person who can't work for the next month to 2 months. Well, New York City, San Francisco, and perhaps the rest of the country soon.
Right. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, which is I spoke to restaurant owners last night who are paying all their employees, that are not laying them off. And that's why it's important that they get up to 90 days or longer of very low cost money from their bank or from the SBA so that they have the funding, unsecured funding, to keep their staff in place because they have no revenue. That's an absolute important component of this. That's not to say that people can debate direct money through an appropriation to people. I'm simply arguing that we need to protect our airlines and get capital there so they can continue to employ people. And the best way in most places I know is the local bank can help that restaurant keep funded, keep staff in place during this period of uncertainty over the next month or two.
Congressman, we talked to one of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle at the top of the program, Don Beyer of Virginia, and I'll ask you the same thing I asked him, which is that in a partisan Washington, can you all get something done quickly? Because the aid is needed, whether you are talking about the individual who was laid off from a restaurant or an airline, that aid is needed right now. So every day that passes with Congress not taking action means more pain for people.
Well, we took action within just a few hours on an $8 billion appropriation for the public health aspects of the emergency. We passed in a couple of days money that goes directly to families for quarantine, for child care, for expanded unemployment coverage for everyone who's unemployed. If you were laid off last week, you can apply for expanded unemployment insurance if the Senate passes that bill today. All this has been done in a very bipartisan way. My friend Don Beyer is a great entrepreneur in Northern Virginia. He knows the importance of having good employee relations and keeping employees in place. And that's exactly what I think these facilities will do. It's not about Wall Street, it's about Main Street.
So if it's about Main Street, would you tie those Small Business Administration loans to small businesses, make them contingent on their passing that money to their employees? Because listen, it's a wonderful thing companies are doing, paying people during this period. There's no guarantee that they're not going to do it. So would you make it a requirement? Because we didn't require the banks to lend money when Treasury bailed out the banks 12 years ago.
Yeah, Adam, it's a good question. I think that if I was in business for 40 years before I've been in Congress for 5 years, the most important people and most important assets I had in my business are my employees. So of course I want to keep them stable to be able to serve customers when the end of this public health crisis comes to a conclusion.
Would you require the Small Business
That's so
Administration loan be contingent on the owner getting the loan saying, I will continue to pay? Look, I washed dishes at a diner in Old Orchard Beach, Maine when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
For last hired, first fired,
Yeah.
right? Would you make it contingent?
Yeah. Well, I think you could. I think the purpose of the money would be to keep that restaurant open and functioning, pay rent, pay employees, pay all the expenses they have, keep food coming in, because most restaurants I know here, for example, are running a takeout business now in order to try to keep some revenue coming in, keep their cooks occupied. So I think the fastest way we need to take action is to let our banks serve our small businesses, and we do that by expanding the U.S. government guarantee on express loans and loans through preferred lenders at SBA. That's the way to get cash right now, overnight, into the hands of businesses all across this country.
So, Congressman, we've been talking about what Congress can do in all of this. I'm curious what more you might want to see. Oh, excuse me. We're going to actually go to President Trump right now, who's giving a press conference. Congressman French Hill, thank you.